Hello everybody, it's Julie, Kansas City girl in a Colorado world, and today is Friday, January 26th, 2024. You will be seeing this on Saturday the 27th because I always upload these overnight while I'm sleeping because they take forever to upload these days. Anyway, this is Flosstube number 117. It has been a long time since my last video. It's been about a month and a half. Yeah. Holidays, there was Christmas, there was New Year's in there, but also I started back working full time, I think right before Christmas. Yeah, I think it was like the week before Christmas. Anyway, I started back to work and that has been an adjustment. Which I knew it would be. I'm still stitching, but obviously like my stitching time has dramatically reduced, but also like I'm just trying to get adjusted to like being back at work full time, and like mentally it's been hard for me sometimes to grab new projects, etc. But I think I'm getting in the swing of things. So hopefully I will not be 6 weeks in between Flosstubes from here on out. But because it has been so long, I do have a lot. I have a lot to show. A lot of Christmas stuff to show because I was trying to get a lot of Christmas projects done. And I did. But I'll do those, like, I'll show those quickly because I know like that season has passed and some of you just might not be real excited to see Christmas stuff after the Christmas season. But I did get some stuff done, so I'll show it. But yeah, I've got several finishes, and I've got some works in progress, and quite a few new starts as well. So the first thing I want to show, I'm not going in any kind of like chronological order. The first thing I want to show is something that I just finished last night. And I'm so excited about this. So I have a little chat with my friends, Carla and Sarah. And I think we started the chat mostly just to talk about Sarah J. Maas books, or Fourth Wing or something. Anyway, we ended up just like, it just became a chat that we chat daily. And Sarah had sent to the chat like, hey, have you guys seen this pattern? And I'm like, oh, I was just looking at that this morning. I really like it. And she's like, yeah, I think I'm gonna start it if you want to, maybe do a SAL. The SAL is a stitch along. If you're new to Flosstube acronyms, SAL, stitch along. So anyway, Sarah was like, hey, does anybody want to stitch it with me? And I was like, well, twist my arm. I was already kind of thinking about it. And so I was like, yeah, I'm in. And then I got to looking at the pattern, and let me just put a picture of the pattern in now. It's Lunar Love by Sprouting Lupine. I think this just came out in December. I think it's new. It's her Valentine's pattern. She comes out with a Valentine's pattern like every year. But anyway, I was looking at it and I was like, I love it, but I just think maybe like some mint or some aqua would look really good, on this. Like, I just think it needs a little like minty color to it. And so then of course I started playing around with it and I ended up doing a full color conversion. Just because once I did put the mint like aqua color in, it didn't look right with like the tone of pink that was called for. So then I had to like totally change that. So anyway, I ended up doing a full conversion on this pattern. And I was so excited because I thought the conversion looked so great. And then, the original looks great too. I'm not dissing the original. I would have stitched it as is, but I got really excited about the conversion. And so I ended up starting it like, I think that night. And then I could not put this down until I finished it last night. This is all I've stitched on for like 2 weeks. So this is the conversion I came up with. And I will, I'll put it, like, if I remember, I'll put it in the description box. Like, I'm not like gatekeeping this conversion. It's just DMC. It called for 7 colors of DMC, and I just substituted 7 different colors of DMC. This is stitched on a 16 count charcoal Aida. It's just it's not quite black. It's like a really dark, deep gray charcoal tone. And I thought the colors just popped, and it was looking so good when I started stitching it that I could not stop. So this conversion, we have named, in our group chat, we've named this the Starlight Fancy conversion. That's related to the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas. One of the characters collects these, they're basically like My Little Ponies, but in this fantasy world, they're called Starlight Fancy figurines. And so these colors just felt to me like kind of like that My Little Pony, like 80s, 90s vibe. And so this has been dubbed the Starlight Fancy conversion of Lunar Love. And I put our initials in, so J, S, and C, so Sarah and Carla. And then 2024 is over here. But yeah, this is I'm in love. I love it. I love it so much. And we're all 3 using the same colors. I think Sarah and Carla did like one little change. They flipped these 2 colors in the moth. But otherwise, I think they're stitching it the same as I did. I did finish first because I just could not stop. I could not put this down. So this is Lunar Love by Sprouting Lupine, but it's a much different color conversion than the called for. However, I have already downloaded another pattern from Sprouting Lupine. It's called My Mushy Valentine. I'll put a picture in. It's a mushroom pattern, and I am going to stitch this one with the called for colors. I love it just as it is. And I'll probably, I know I'm starting that on February 1st with my friend Victor. So, because he messaged me and said, hey, have you seen this pattern? I love it. Do you want to stitch it with me? And I was like, well, I'm actually stitching another pattern from Sprouting Lupine, and I'm about to finish it. So yeah, absolutely. I want to stitch that with you. So yeah, basically, I'm obsessed with Sprouting Lupine right now. Go check them out on Etsy. Their patterns are incredible. I love them. And this is the Starlight Fancy conversion of Lunar Love. So that was my most recent finish, obsessed. Let me show you some Christmas finishes. Why not? All right, so I am in another little Instagram chat where we stitch on the full moons, and we try to stitch on something like moon related, and stitch for like 1 or 2 days a month around the full moon. Well, we were trying to figure out if there was something like small we could stitch for December, and the December full moon was right around Christmas. I think it was December 26th. And so I was like, let me look through like my patterns and see if there's anything, if I can find something. And I realized in the 2023 Christmas issue of Just Cross Stitch magazine, there was actually an ornament. Let me cover this up so I don't show you the chart. There was an ornament by Teresa and Brian from Needle Bling Designs, and it's called Santa Moon. And it actually is probably going to be hard to see, but there's actually a moon in this ornament. So I was like, well, this is absolutely perfect. And we all in the chat had this issue of Just Cross Stitch magazine. So we all decided to stitch this for our full moon stitch along in December. So this is my finish. I did not use the called for colors. I just grabbed random things from Stash. This is a 20 count Aida. It's a petty point gray. I had a different like piece on here, but I decided I wasn't ever going to finish it. So there's still some, like, you can see some leftover stitching from what I was working on before. But this is my finish. It was a quick like 2-day stitch, and that was really fun. I really loved doing that. So there's that. And then so I went to the Jingle Ball, and I was actually like pretty well behaved. I really didn't buy much. But I went to the Jingle Ball, and I purchased the stitch along from Tiny Modernist, and it was called the Merry and Bright Stitch Along. And at the time of the Jingle Ball, there was just like the first part was released, and then she released, I think it was 4 or 5 parts, and she released them up to Christmas. And I kept up, and I actually did finish this like right before Christmas, but I am just now showing it. But it was a really fun stitch along, and I really love the look of it. So it's called Merry and Bright. And unfortunately, if you did not buy this at the Jingle Ball, you cannot get this pattern, I think, until probably next, Christmas season is when she will release it. But you had to, it was a Jingle Ball exclusive. So I think I used all of the called for colors except for in this border here. I did use a variegated floss that I had in stash that I thought went well with the other colors, but the other colors are just DMC colors. This was really fun to stitch, and it was really fun to keep up with that and get that finish. The parts weren't released weekly. I think they were kind of like every 4 or 5 days. But it was doable. And then I had this finished for Christmas, although I didn't get it FFO'd. FFO'd means fully finished object. I did not get this FFO'd for Christmas. This fabric is by Bestitch Me. It's a 25 count linen, and it's in the color Tundra. It was in a like winter themed box a year or 2 ago. Because it's 25 count, mine's pretty large. It's over 2 on 25 count. So that was really fun to stitch, and I love it on this fabric, and I love the way the colors are popping, and I just love it. I love everything about it. Hopefully I'll get it finished for next Christmas. Also around Christmas, I did finish this pattern from, somebody on Etsy. On the tip of my tongue. I'll try to put it in here. It's the Christmas Vacation Sampler. I found this on Etsy, and I just loved the look of this. And it's based on the National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which is one of my favorite Christmas movies. And this was a really fun, easy stitch. This is a 14 count red Aida, and I used a white floss. And this says, "Hallelujah, holy shit, where's the Tylenol?" And that's from Clark's unhinged rant when he receives the Jelly of the Month Club instead of the Christmas bonus he's expecting. This was really fun to stitch. I love this. I love the look of it. And then I think this is my last Christmas project. I finished one of my oldest WIP, W-I-P, work in progress. I finished one of my very oldest. This is Heap on the Wood by Brenda Gervais. This was from 2018. I don't know when it came out, but I started it in 2018. It probably came out before that. This is how it looks. And I stitched mine on 32 count Picture This Plus Ren. So mine's really big. Woo! But it's finished. Look at that. It takes up a whole fat quarter. So I did mostly use the called for colors, except for like a couple of them weren't showing up. So I changed the words are in a totally different color because the called for just did not show up on my fabric. It was too close to the color of my fabric. But otherwise, I think I used the called fors. And just a heads up, if you're stitching an older Brenda Gervais pattern, I don't think she does this now, but on her older ones, she was kind of known for like calling for a fancy floss for something maybe that was only like 10 stitches or 15 stitches in your pattern, or like something that maybe didn't have to be done in fancy floss. Like, she might call for like the skin of these people to be done in a fancy floss when really you could just use a DMC. It's just a couple stitches, no big deal. But the most egregious use of this was that she called for a fancy floss for one stitch. The nose, the carrot nose in this snowman. I think it was Weeks Carrot. It is literally used for one stitch on this pattern. So if you are stitching an old Brenda Gervais, before you just like buy all the fancy floss on the back of the pattern, if you can, you should really get that pattern out and examine it, because you will find, I mean, they're beautiful. The colors are beautiful. Everything looks great, but you will find sometimes that you maybe don't have to buy a fancy floss for certain parts of the pattern, that it's just really not necessary. I mean, buying a whole skein of an overdyed floss for one stitch. I'm still mad about it. I'm still mad about it. Every time I've shown this, I've told this story. Anyway, I finished it. It's huge. It's humongous, but I love it. There's that. It says, heap on the wood, the wind is chill, but let it whistle as it will. We'll keep our Christmas merry still. All right, what else do we have? Oh. So, I was gifted from my friend Victor the Neon Goth box from Starlight Stitchery. This box was so good, you guys. Oh my God. Like, the patterns in here are so good. And I had to start one immediately. So I did my girl Bendy, Michelle, Bendy Stitchy. I did a CC Cuties Mothman, and I used the floss that came in the box. And I stitched this on a 14 count Ada from Charles Craft that I got at Michael's. It might be hard to see, but it's a subtle modeling. It's like a pink and a purpley modeling. And I just love how this turned out. This is so cute. It was really fun to stitch. I think it took me 2 nights. It was a really quick stitch. There are just some phenomenal patterns in this book. I want to stitch, I think, like almost everything. But the next thing I did was, there's this Biscornu. It's so cute. And I was like, you know what? That'll stitch up so fast. It's from Cobweb and Rose. It's the Neon Goth Scornu. So it's right here. And so this also used the called for floss, or the floss that came in the box is from Forbidden Fiber Company. And so I used the floss from the box, and then I used the linen that came in the box. It's a 32 count linen called Acid Goth. It's a crystal black, like galaxy type linen. Yes, it's very hard to see and stitch on. Black 32 count linen can be hard to stitch on anyway. When you add in crystal, like opalescent, it's very hard to stitch on, but I knew it would be, and I just powered through and I was able to do it. And I have not assembled my Biscornu yet, but isn't it cute? It's so cute. I can't wait. I can't wait to get that sewn up and put together. So those were 2 like totally spontaneous, spur of the moment SAFs, S-A-F, start and finish. We're doing like Flosstube acronym lessons this Flosstube video. Anyway, I just was so excited that I grabbed those 2 and stitched them up immediately. Let me show you, this was a limited edition box, so you can't, unfortunately you cannot get this now, but usually what happens is the designers will, I think like 6 months later or so, they will be able to release these patterns like in their own shops, which most of them have Etsy shops. So I love this one, Neon Skull Fox by Flossie Fox Shop. I think it's so cute. I'm not going to show you the whole book, but there's some really good stuff in here. The other one that okay, I'll show you 2 more because these are like my favorites. I really like a lot of these. Lola Crow has the Neon Kraken. I love this, and it will be a really quick stitch. And then the one that I just like lost my mind over, I love it so much. It's Neon Goth Witch by the Witchy Stitcher. It is so good. I definitely need to stitch that. So, it was such a good box. All right, I think that's all I'm looking at my notes. I think that's all of my finishes. I told you I had a lot. And then I just want to show you really quick My sister sent me 2 of her finishes so that I could fully finish them for her. So she also stitched a National Lampoon's Christmas vacation stitch. And so this one says, Merry Christmas, shitter was full. And it's Cousin Eddie emptying the RV sewage tank into the storm gutter. Scene from the movie. This is just on like a 14 count Aida with DMC. I don't have the designer. If I remember, I'll put it in. But she got that on Etsy. And then my sister, she actually stitched one of my patterns. So my sister has been a reader forever, just like me. But we both have like influenced each other. So she finally got me turned on to like Kindle Unlimited and reading all the dark romance. And I finally got her to read Romantasy and to read the Sarah J. Maas series. So she's read all of them now. So she read Crescent City, House of, God, what's the first book? It's the House of Earth and Blood is the first book. And now she's read like everything. But I had made a pattern inspired by the first Crescent City book, House of Earth and Blood. And it's called Through Love. And I'll link below. My Hemlock Rye Stitchery is my design company. And so I had designed this pattern and my sister stitched it. So I'm going to finish this for her. It's Through Love, All is Possible. And she stitched it with the called for colors. And this fabric is, I don't know the name of it, but I know she got it from Witch's Garden Crafts on Etsy. And it's a hand-dyed 16 count Aida, I think is what it could be 14 count, but it's a hand-dyed Aida. And then she used the called for DMC. And it's so pretty. And I still need to stitch this for myself because I actually stitched the original for my friend Carla, who I did the Lunar Love stitch along with as well. So I stitched the original for Carla and then sent it to her. And I've been meaning to stitch this again so I have my own. And this is my sister's. I will finish it and send it back to her. But I love this so much. I think it looks so good. It's so pretty. Obsessed with that. All right, so those are all the finishes. So, oh, I feel like so out of practice. I'm tired already. Okay, some works in progress, some things that I have stitched on but have not finished. So the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery has a stitch along that's going to be wrapping up in February, and it is called the Castle Homecoming. And I am all caught up except for I have not stitched January section yet. And then of course there's one more section as yet to be released. But I've stayed caught up with this and I plan to stitch on this really soon so I can get that January section done and I'll be all ready to go for a finish in February. This is on a 32 count fabric called Sweet Treat. It's by Mystic Fabrics. And I'm using a lot of the called for DMC, but I've also made some substitutions, like mostly just to add some sparkle from things I had in stash. But a lot of it is the called for colors, like especially up here in the grass and the castle, that's all called for. I did make quite a bit of change to the dragon just to make the dragon sparkly. And just based on the colors I had in stash. And then the only like real big change I made was the princess. I made her to look like Princess Peach from Mario Kart. Or just from Super Mario Brothers, I guess. Not specifically from Mario Kart. Just from Mario. Anyway, there is that. This section right here about killed me. I don't know why. This tree was really hard to stitch and it was not fun. And I did not like that part. But I have liked everything else. It's fine. It's fine. And look, I'm just so excited. I start Frosted Pumpkin Stitch-alongs a lot and then I don't keep up with them. And then I end up abandoning them. And this is one that I've actually kept up with and I'm really proud. There's Castle Homecoming. Whew. Okay, so then All right, so my friend Amy, Gable Stitcher, her last video, it came out like maybe 2 weeks ago. Her last video, she talks about her plans for 2024. And she had this whole like elaborate, well, it wasn't that elaborate. That makes it sound more complicated. But she had this whole like system for what she was going to stitch on and how she was going to decide what to stitch on in 2024. And she sent me like her layout of how she had it all organized. And I was like, you know, I think I could like adjust that a little bit and make that work for me. So I did. And I had this whole like plan for what I was going to do. But that all went out the window when I could not stop stitching Lunar Love for 2 weeks straight. So I don't know that I'm actually going to keep up with the plans any longer that I had come up with. However, I think I'm going to like loosely use the plans for like inspiration. So all that to say, one of the categories, like one of the things I decided to do was to pick an old stitch along, an old Sal, and focus on that every month. And what I would do is try to do like a strand a day or 30 minutes a day on an old stitch along just for the month, and then like just see how much I could get done. So I put them all in like a tiny decisions wheel and I spun, and what came up was the Witchy Stitcher chopping maul. And this was one I had not worked on in a long time. So I did get it out and I just went like gangbusters on it and I got a ton done. So this is on a 28 count Monaco that I dyed myself with Rit dye. And I think it's all the called for DMC colors. But what had happened was I had started like on the frame and got a little bit done. And then I went into the stores and I had these 3 stores, I had all of this stitching done. This 3rd store is not completely done, but a lot of it is done. So this was all done, and then a little bit of the roof here was done. So when I got it out this time, I decided, let me get this roof done. And I'm so close. It's not done, but it's close. And then, of course, I've still got 2 more levels of the mall to do. But I did I guess maybe I had more done on this roof than I was saying. I think because I think I was over to here. I had like this much done. So I filled in like some more up here and then came all the way over. So I am almost done with that roof. It is a lot of stitching. I did make a slight modification on the original pattern. The roof is an angled, like a triangle. And I just decided I would make it like a little less stitching for myself. And I just flattened that out. And I think it looks fine. And this was really fun to stitch and I could not put it down. Part of that was, again, like just being really tired, mentally tired from going back to work and just having some decision fatigue and like not being able to come home and be like, let me get a new project out and like, you know, wrap my brain around a new pattern, new colors. You know, it was just easy to come home and pick this up rather than trying to swap out to a new project. But also I was having a lot of fun, and also I was so close to getting the roof done that I could not put it down. So I'm very happy with the progress I made on that old stitch along. And I know that once I get that roof done, the rooms actually go really quick. So I don't know if I'm going to keep at it. I think I'm at least going to like finish the roof, and then I'll see if I feel like moving on to more of the stores or if it'll get put away for a while. I'm not quite decided yet. So another category was, in my plans was to pick an older Mirabilia or Chatelaine, to focus on every month because I have about 12 of them, in my whip list. So again, I made a tiny decision wheel and I spun, and what I spun was an old project, a chatelaine called Marie Antoinette. I think it's the Marie Antoinette Mandala. And here is a picture of how it will look when it's done. I'm using all the called for colors, and I'm stitching mine on a 32 count French Lilac by Picture This Plus. And I got so much done on this. I did and I didn't. You know, it feels like I did though. I had a lot done of what you're seeing, but what I did was I did a ton of specialty stitches in the navy blue and blue. I know it's hard to see. There's a lot of beading that's going to go in here, which will also make it a lot easier to see that stitching. But I did a ton of Jessica stitches and Algerian eyelets. And then I did these little fleur-de-lis. These are all over one. And then a lot of metallic back stitching. So those took forever. They might not look like a whole lot, but they took so long to do. But all I have to say, I've got part 1 done. This is all done. And I'm ready to move on to part 2, which I got like the tiniest little start right here on this pearl up here. But yeah, it was really fun to get this out. It did take a lot of mental energy to like get out a really old digital file of a chatelaine. First of all, I had to like dig it up and find it because it was on like an old laptop. I thought I had emailed it to myself, but I hadn't. So I had to fire up this old laptop and then like email. Anyway, then I had to figure out like chatelaines are not easy charts to read. And there's a lot of directions and it's a lot of like, wait, which color is it? Like I backstitch in what now? And okay, the Jessica stitches are in what color? And you know, they're very detailed and you have to pay close attention. So it took me a minute just to like get my bearings on this chart, but I did do it. And I think I might put this away for a little while. I was supposed to work on it more this month, but I'm at a really good stopping point because I've got like the first part done entirely, and then I'm like ready to start the second part. So it's a good place to stop if I'm going to put it away for another 3 years like I did this round. Okay, so on Christmas Day, I started Christmas Day 1826 by Kathy Barrick. This was a kit that I bought at the Country Sampler. Well, I mean, it's just it's not sold as a kit, but the Country Sampler did their own conversion and sold it as a kit. And I picked this up because in their version, there's more like red and green Christmassy colors. So it's Rachel Deardorff, December 25th, 1826, Christmas Day. And I used the kit from Country Sampler, which is like, I don't know what fabric, I don't remember what fabric it is. It's been a while since I worked on this. I think it's a 32 count. I think it might be like an R&R. But here's my little start on this. I think I got to the bottom. Is that the bottom? Yeah. Okay. So this is as tall as it's going to be. It's just it's a small piece. I could definitely finish this if I kept going. It was stitching up really fast. And so like I said, this is their color conversion. It's Gentle Arts. So you can see on the original, it's just kind of like browns. And with their version, there's more reds and greens in there. So like we're going to get this red in and some green, and it just feels a little bit more Christmassy with their version. I haven't gotten to the reds yet. Well, there's a little bit, but I haven't gotten much in there yet, so it doesn't look super Christmassy yet. And it won't look super Christmassy, but it will look more Christmassy than it was. Okay. I think I might have one more. Is it just one more? Okay, so my friend Sarah, she is on Flosstube. Oh my gosh, why am I blanking? I'm seeing her Instagram. Her Instagram is Eat My Oxygen. What is her Flosstube? I'll link it down below. Why am I'm telling you guys, especially, I've always had some trouble with short-term memory, but especially since I started working, like my brain, I told someone today, like my brain is like mashed potatoes. Like it's so bad. Anyway, Sarah, my friend Sarah She is doing like fancy ladies for the seasons, which was inspired by Janet Jabber. I did remember that name, Janet Jabber. She is with like every season, she is picking a fancy lady to start and work on. And so for winter, she decided to do Mirabilia at the Met. And I said, oh, I've always wanted to stitch that one. Let me just start it with you. And my friend Melissa, Starlight Stitcher, had stitched her, she stitched at the Met on this beautiful burgundy fabric. It was so pretty. So I decided I would copy Melissa. And then Sarah was like, well, I'm going to copy that too. And we actually had the same piece of fabric because I think it came in like a Black Needle Society box or something, but we both had it. It's a fabric from Jody at Steel City Stitchers. And I think it's called Crimson. What is it called? Crimson Peak. And it's a 32 count linen. And so we're both stitching our At the Met on the same fabric. I started in the middle and I got a little start. I didn't get a whole lot done on her, but there it is. I know it's not a lot to look at yet, but I've started. So I'm in here. But yeah, she's going to be gorgeous. So, whew, all right. That's all my stitching. I want to show you just two things I purchased real quick. So I had bought the 2 patterns from Sprouting Lupine that I've already shown. And then my friend Miriam at Marumi Crafts, she released a new pattern. Well, she's released a couple new patterns, but the one that I purchased most recently is called Azad the Lost Unicorn. And Miriam has on her channel, which I'll link down below, she has a video where it's a short video where she just shows off this pattern, talks about her inspiration, her personal story behind the pattern. And I just thought it was so beautiful. I thought it looked so great. And then I was very moved by her sharing her personal like inspiration for the pattern. So if you have time, go give that video a watch. It's very good. I don't know when I'm going to start this, but I love it. I don't know when I'm going to start it. New starts are really hard for me right now. With, like I said, with just all the stuff going on. So, the other pattern that I could not resist, which is a nice small one, and it's seasonal for Valentine's Day. Marissa at Mkissa Creations. I love everything she does. And she just released this cute little pattern called Quilted Together. It's, looks like it would just take a couple days to stitch up, and it's so cute. And I think it'll be like a really easy, quick stitch. So I might try to get that one done before Valentine's Day, but no problem. No promises. We will see. Okay, so that is all the stitching that I have. I am going to talk a little bit about books. So if you want to hear about books, stay tuned. If you don't care to hear about what books I've been reading, no worries. You can leave now and you're not going to miss out on any stitching stuff. Okay, so obviously it's been 6 weeks. I've read a lot of books. I cannot talk about all these books. I can't go through all these books. It will take too long. Mostly I was reading a bunch of Christmas books like on Kindle Unlimited. And honestly, I've been in a little bit of like it's not a reading slump, but I've just been reading a lot of just like kind of okay books. Like nothing's really like hitting. The only books that I've really like loved and given 5 stars to recently were like rereads of old loves. I like to reread a lot of books like in the winter season, like it's like comfort reading. And then like a few anticipated new releases that I knew would be 5 stars. But otherwise, like the stuff I've been reading on Kindle Unlimited and stuff, it's just been like, okay, it's been fun, like 3 or 4 star ratings. Like it's good, but it's not like super memorable or like blowing me away. So, anyway, I don't want to have to do a bunch of editing And like I said, a lot of them were Christmas romances and that season's past. So I'm not going to go in to everything I've read. What I decided to do, just to make it easy on myself, is to just show you the books I've read that I have actual physical copies of. That way I don't have to edit in pictures. So let me grab my stack here. Okay, well, I guess these are not in any particular order. Just what's on top of the stack. So this was a super impulse buy at Walmart. I was just walking through I always check their books, and I saw this, and I just literally based on the cover, vibes alone, grabbed it and threw it in my cart. Say less. I didn't even look up reviews. It's called Raiders of the Lost Heart by Joe Segura. Look at that cover. Oh, I was like, I don't even care what it's about. I'm in. So it's two archaeologists, and they're on a dig in Mexico, and they are academic rivals, really slash enemies. In grad school, they had a little they had a little moment, they had a little something, but then it's a little bit of a misunderstanding, but basically she thinks he betrayed her and stole her dream job out from under her. And so now she hates him. He does not hate her, but they do not get along. And they've gone their separate ways, but they are reunited for an archaeological dig in Mexico. And the sparks are flying. So it's enemies slash rivals to lovers. And I loved it. This was so fun. I have not heard anybody talking about this book. I have not seen this book again. I grabbed the one copy I saw at Walmart, and I haven't seen it again at Walmart since I've been back. I don't know. I don't know why this book isn't everywhere, but I loved it. It was so good. The reviews were interesting. They were a little bit mixed because people weren't, what did I see in the reviews? That people don't think he groveled enough to make it up to her, when he kind of screwed her over. And I guess I could see that. I don't want to spoil this for anybody, because I do think you should read this, because I really loved it. But sometimes when a character really messes up, you need an epic apology and groveling. And I guess people felt she forgave him a little too easily for his betrayal. But it didn't bother me. I thought it was great. I loved it. It was funny. It was sexy. It was a fun adventure. They're basically in a jungle in Mexico, rafting in the river and exploring caves. And it was really cool. I really, really liked this one. I really liked that one. Then I read King of Battle and Blood by Scarlett St. Clair. This is a romantasy vampire novel. Now, this was good. It wasn't epically great, but it was good. I think there's at least one. I don't know how many books are in this series. There's at least one more, so I will read the next book. But it gave it really had major From Blood and Ash vibes from Jennifer L. Armentrout. So if you like From Blood and Ash, you might really like this. I'm not saying it's a ripoff or anything, and honestly, I don't even know. I feel like they came out around the same time. But it just, the way it was written, the world, it wasn't a ripoff or a copy, but it was just the vibes were the same. It really felt almost the same kind of world. So, use that as, if you hated From Blood and Ash, you probably don't want to even bother with this book. If you loved it, you might give this a try. You probably already checked it out anyway. But yeah, it's a little while since I read this one, so I don't remember all the ins and outs, but it's literally just vampire, kind of has a historical vibe to it. But in a world, it's not our world. It's a fantasy realm, and a lot of sexy times in this book. So if you just want some vampire historical fantasy smut, check this out. It was good. It wasn't, like I said, it didn't wasn't an all-time fave, didn't blow me away, but like it was a fun time. So then I read, okay, so this is a change of pace. This is fantasy, but it's like actually like children's fantasy. So Abby Bella Stitch, I'm in a group chat with her and a bunch of other people that do like pop in and out of her Tuesday night Zooms. I actually like I never go to the Tuesday night Zooms. Not because there's anything wrong with, I just like never make it to the Zooms, but I'm still in like the Instagram chat where she like sends out the link and says like, hey guys, if you want to like stitch and chill, like here's the link. So anyway, all that to say, Abby messaged the group and was like, has anyone heard of these books? And I was like, no, but like, I'm intrigued. Let me look. And someone else in the group chat, Luciana, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Sorry if I'm not, but she was like, oh my God, I love those books. Like we read those every year in my household, like well beloved children's fantasy series. And me and a few other people in the chat are like, how have we never heard of this? And apparently it's like maybe more of like a UK thing. I know some of you Americans might be like, of course I know this series. What are you talking about? But I think it's maybe more like a UK series. It's The Dark is Rising sequence by Susan Cooper. And the reason Abby had seen it was because this new box set was being released. And so like there was some promotion going on. So I did grab the box set. I actually got it from Target because they were having like a 20% off sale and it was very reasonable. I think I paid maybe, it's 5 books and I know I paid under 30. I might have paid like $24 for it. It wasn't bad. And now I can't get it back in the box. I read the first 2 books. So these are children's fantasy, but I feel like they're really well written and they don't feel like children's books to me. So the first book is the first book is Oversea Under Stone, and the second book is The Dark is Rising. And so I think the artwork, so for the new box set, they got new artwork. I think it's gorgeous. And it's just it's like an epic fantasy series. Obviously, I don't know how it's going to end. I still have 3 books left to read, but it's basically like the light versus the dark, chosen ones, prophecies. Like it's very, very entertaining, and I would love to watch. Apparently, there was like a mini series made in the 90s or like forever ago, and I looked for it, but I could not find like anywhere in the US that I could watch it. If anybody knows, let me know. I couldn't find anywhere to like stream it in the US. I don't even think you could buy it, but I probably wouldn't want to buy it. I would just want to stream it, but I don't even think I could buy it. Anyway, the first book is so fun. These 3 children go on holiday in a little coastal town, and they find a treasure map in the attic of this old like house they're staying in. It definitely had like Goonies vibes. But not like, it wasn't like a ripoff of Goonies, but it just kind of had those vibes. Like they find a treasure map and they go hunting for, they don't know what they're hunting for, but it ends up being a grail. And then in the second book, it's like a totally different, they're not, I believe, because I've only read 2, these books are like somewhat related, but also kind of standalone. So like the second book features like one character that we met in the first book, but otherwise it's like a totally different setting, totally different characters. And like that one character is kind of like the thread. But you start to see that like these different pieces of the puzzle are all going to come together at some point to have like a final epic battle against the dark, the evil. But they are definitely like different books, and they tonally are different, and like the plots are very different, but they're both very interesting and very, very fun and very good. So the writing is so good in these books. Like there's a chase scene in this first book, and like my heart was pounding. I was so nervous. I was like biting my nails, like reading this. It was just so vivid. The chase scene was just crazy. But anyway, I do need to read these 3 more books, but I'm very much enjoying this epic fantasy series. Okay, the last book to talk about is it's a sequel and a duology. So let me just show both. So Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. It came out earlier in 2023, and then the sequel, Ruthless Vows, came out in December. So this is actually a young adult historical fantasy series. It is young adult. It doesn't really like super feel young adult to me. Maybe even more like feels like a new adult fantasy, but it's the characters are like 18 and 19 years old. There's no like graphic on page like sex scenes, so that does feel like more for a younger audience. But this book like was such a sensation in 2023. It was super popular, kind of went viral. It is about 2 war reporters in this world. It's really a unique like premise. It is fantasy, but it also I don't know if there's a name for like this type of fantasy, but it's like fantasy that's in our world. It's like our world, but with like a little bit of a magical element. So these are people who are living in like what appears to be like some city in England. But they are reporters for a newspaper in the war. So I think the setting is equivalent to like World War I in our world. But in this world, there are ancient gods who have been sleeping. But one of them has awakened and is now like wreaking destruction. And so that is the war that is happening, and they are reporting. But they are rivals, so divine rivals. It's not an enemies to lovers romance. I think that's where like some people have been really disappointed, because like they're not enemies. They're just workplace rivals. They're competing for the same like promotion at work, and they don't like particularly like each other, but they're not like enemies. But anyway, I can't really go into much more detail without spoiling it, but that's kind of like the setup of the story. So I read this in the summer and I liked it, but I didn't like, at the time, I didn't think it was like a love for me. It was like, that was pretty good. I almost felt like, it's a little overhyped. Like, why is everybody freaking out about this book? Like, there was a few things I didn't love. And there were a few tropes that I really don't enjoy, and it's a spoiler to like really explain, but the way this book ends, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to read the second one, because that's like a trope I really don't like. However, I found myself like thinking about this book a lot. And usually like when I finish a book, it's like out of my mind, like gone. And there have been a few instances where I finished a book and I'm like, I don't know if I loved it. I don't know about that one. But then I like keep revisiting it and I keep thinking about it. And then like a few months later, I'll have to reread it because I can't stop thinking about it. And then it like, I just keep revisiting it, and then it becomes like a book I love. And like one example of that is Jane Eyre. Like, I don't like that book, but I love that book because it's written so beautifully and it just like captivates me. But there are a lot of things like I don't actually enjoy about the story in that book. And this was kind of the same vibe. Like, I could not stop thinking about them. And so in my group chat with Carla and Sarah, actually going back to that, this came up. I think, Sarah was like, hey, has anybody read this? And I was like, or Carla was reading it and she was like, you guys are like obsessed with this book. And I was like, yeah, I read it in the summer, and I was kind of like, about it. And then we started talking about it, and then I was like, God, I really want to reread it. I need to reread it. And so I did, and I really like fell in love with it a little bit more on the reread. So yeah, I don't know. It's just, I don't know what I'm getting at. It's just that, like, I think this book, I just needed to sit with it a while, and when I revisited it, I really like fell in love with it and liked it even more. So I'm revising my rating. Like in the summer I gave it 4 stars. It's now a 5-star book. I loved it. The writing is so beautiful. This book is really beautifully written. So anyway, the sequel came out and I really loved it. I can't really go into detail because it will all be spoilers, but I will say I did like Divine Rivals a little bit more, but I really did love this book. My one criticism is that it felt like maybe this was supposed to be a trilogy and she had to like kind of condense it into 2 books. Like I felt like there were some threads like brought up in this book that we like didn't go anywhere, that we didn't get to explore. Like it felt like there was like some plot points that maybe got like trimmed or cut out. Like again, like maybe it was supposed to be 3 books and then like maybe the editor or the publisher was like, nah, we don't have 3 books here. Like we need to cut this down. And so there were just some things that I was like, hey, wait, like we never, like what was the point of bringing that up? We never went back to that. Like why did that happen? Again, I can't really give examples because that would be really spoilery, but like I just felt like if anything, I just wanted more. I just wanted a little more. But I thought it was like satisfactory. Like I was happy with the conclusion of this story and it made sense. And it was very good. I did love this book. However, like I do think Divine Rivals was like a little bit better. But it was a fitting end. It was a satisfactory conclusion. I did want a little more. So, but I do recommend this series. If you have heard about it, if you're interested, definitely worth checking out. The writing is just really, really, really good. Really beautiful writing. So that is it. That's it. That's all the book talk. All right, I'm tired. I feel like I've been talking forever and I'm so out of practice with filming Flosstubes. So if you have watched this whole thing, thank you so much. I know some of you do actually stay until the end. I think a lot of people like check out way before, but I know that some of you stay until the very end and I appreciate you. I will see you next time. Bye.